This is my final project for Psychology 1, Professor Nick Tuttle, and it's Ken Leake presenting. My final project is the reversal of gender roles and the effects of men staying at home versus women staying at home. So the official definition of a stay-at-home dad, according to the 2012 census, is a married father with children under 15 who has remained out of the labor force for more than 1 year, primarily so he can care for his family while his wife works outside of the home. Closer definition is a married father with children who is a primary caregiver that cares for his children while his wife works outside of the home. Why does the definition matter? So currently, according to the 2012 census, there's 189,000 families with stay-at-home dads. This number has doubled since the last time the census was taken, over 10 years ago. But if we go closer to a real definition, there's 1.4 million families with stay-at-home dads. So why the shift? So loss of industrial and manufacturing jobs. In the United States, we have lost 5.1 million jobs since 2001. Industrial manufacturing jobs are dominated by men. So currently there's about 5.1 million jobs held by men in manufacturing and industrial fields. And currently there are 1.9 million jobs held by women in the manufacturing and industrial fields. So continued loss in this industry will displace more men than women. Also, more women are graduating from college than men. In 2009, the last time the study was taken, 916,000 women graduated from college compared to 685,000 men. So why does that matter? With the loss of 5.1 million jobs and women graduating from college at a 1.3 to 1 ratio, women are going to become the dominant workforce. With women being better educated and staying in positions longer, they will have the opportunity to have a higher wage and therefore will become the breadwinner. With this shift, it only seems natural for women to go to work and for the husband to stay home. So my story. So I was working in the retail industry when my son was born, and my schedule had me away from the house a minimum of 60 hours a week. I was making great money until I lost my position, and now I was at a crossroads. I could return to work in the retail field where I would not be home much, or I could become a stay-at-home dad and work part-time. I chose the latter and became my son's primary caregiver, but according to the census, I'm not a stay-at-home dad. I currently work 20 hours a week from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. And then after work, I pick up my son from my wife and I spend the day with him. This works for us now because my wife is better educated, also way smarter, and has an excellent job with the city. She is the breadwinner and I am my son's employee. My boss is very strict and is always making unreasonable demands, but being a stay-at-home dad is a great journey that has led me to realize that my son will be a completely different person because he has a male primary caregiver at home. So what's the main difference between a mom staying at home versus a dad? So every parenting style is completely different, but we do share some similarities. So the big thing that we've got to realize is that not all men fit what I've encountered through my research, just like not all women fit the norm as well. So men and women take a different approach, where men in child rearing seem to offer a more outdoor approach with field trips to museums, parks, or other physical activities. Women in child rearing seem to offer a more indoor approach, leaning towards arts and crafts with just some trips to the park. So why does that matter? So what ends up happening is that the different skills that we acquire through being a stay-at-home parent is going to be completely different with a mom staying at home versus a dad. So some of the different skills, so from an imaginative perspective, so from what I've seen through research and personal experience, that women do a better job helping children grow their imagination. Personally, I have a difficult time engaging in the world of make-believe. I find it to be rather silly. But what has happened with my son is that his powers of imagination have suffered. When asked to come up with a name for his elf on a shelf, he doesn't understand what we're asking him to do. The same thing occurred when we asked him to come up with a name for his fish. So currently the elf on the shelf doesn't have a name, and the fish is called Fishy. So gross motor skills. The approach that men take to get their kids active and out of the house. This approach makes a huge impact on the gross motor skills for children. In my situation, due to all of our travels and time spent in the world, my son has always excelled in the area of gross motor skills. He's always tested at different ages, and now even in preschool. And his gross motor skills are always far and away ahead of his other skills. When it comes to fine motor skills, the time that children spend working on arts and crafts vastly improves their fine motor skills. There's a definite difference in between a child who has spent his early stages with art as a focus. Personally, my son has a difficult time sitting still longer than a few minutes, so arts and crafts were a little difficult to do in my house. We did spend a lot of time doing puzzles, but sadly my son doesn't color inside the lines as well as other students who have done more art. His fine motor skills are not as high on his reports as his gross motor skills are. So social development. Social development for children is a huge item that is a pillar that will last them the rest of their lives. Moms have a huge edge when it comes to social development because of the groups that are already established. Mom groups are all over the state or in most communities. Sadly, dad's groups are not as well established, with there only being a handful for the whole state of California, while there are hundreds of moms groups. And why social development matters, and we talk about groups, it has more to do with the fact that women are able to lean on other women to assist them and to help them grow as a parent, whereas dads only are going to be able to rely on what they know and ask other parents. But the interesting thing about men is that we're highly competitive, so we're less likely to speak to other men who are stay-at-home dads and who have kind of figured it out. So what ends up happening is that these men suffer because we don't have the social groups to assist. So what can we expect from the shift in dads staying at home versus moms? Realistically, what's going to happen is that the children of today are going to have better gross motor skills, the ones that stay home with their dads, and the children that stay home with their moms are going to have better fine motor skills. The social development with the stay-at-home moms is going to be a lot better because they're going to have those interactive play groups and going to be with other kids. So what ends up happening is they're still going to be well-adjusted normal kids, but there's just going to be a difference overall in how they approach their life. I know my son is going to be completely different because he had a stay-at-home dad, so it's going to be an interesting way that he's going to turn out compared to if his mom was staying at home. So that's pretty much what I have for my report, and I thank you for your time.